meeting with all the students that have developed over the last year or so work related to this topic. So we have students from our graduate school of business, students from our graduate school of applied computing, and also some undergraduate students that will be presenting today. Hopefully, and we're recording this because we think that it's important that the rest of our remaining of our society also has contact with the things that we are developing. I'll come to this way here so that I can look at you, because otherwise I'm only looking at the camera. The idea of this kind of project is that you not only present your papers, but you also learn from what your colleagues are doing. And the reasons for us to be doing this in English is twofold. First, we are in a strong effort of internationalizing these two programs, the Applied Computing Graduate Program and the Business Program at graduate levels. And of course, if we want to invite international students to come and visit us and spend time with us here in Brazil, we can't tell them that all classes are going to be in Portuguese. So it's been an effort that we've been conducting in both schools of having at least a few of our courses taught in English, so that if they come to Brazil, and when they come to Brazil, they can join us. And that will also be profitable for us, because we will then have the opportunity of not only sharing our research with colleagues from other countries, but also starting to develop a mindset that we have to, I mean, science is done in English. So if we want to be published, we'll probably find a much larger audience to our papers if they're produced, if they're presented in English. So if you're going to present an international conference afterwards, we have to start practicing here. So we ask our excuse to people that are maybe watching us in our LacaisTube YouTube channel if our English still needs to improve, but that's an effort that we have to do here. And the first important result that we already have is that we now have a university in France that is interested in establishing a partnership with us, so that we have a double diploma. Right? You can start your program in Brazil and finish in France, or start in France and finish in Brazil. It's only going to, it's not a reality yet, it's probably going to become a possibility in 2 or 3 years' time, so it's probably not for you, but it's going to be for someone who comes next. And still now in September, we'll already have a student from Canada coming and spending time here with us and doing some work with our research group here. So, I mean, it's a pleasure to do this. We had scheduled presentations in a specific order, but we have here that little academic flexibility, and we will change it a little bit because some of the presenters are still finishing to do their last arrangements in their papers. We'll start in a different order. I would like to ask Valmir Marques to present the first paper. This paper is actually a paper that has already been presented internationally at the Americas Conference of Information Systems 2 weeks ago in Boston. And now we'll have a chance of knowing a little bit more about that directly from Valmir. So please, Valmir. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So I will speak about the collective intelligence and the mapping of accessible ways in the city. This is our research. My name is Valmir, and the professor Graham. Our agenda. I will talk about introduction and motivation about our research, the knowledge areas, the steps of my research, systematic and territory review that we finish presentation answers, and methodology, results, and identified gaps. Okay. About introduction motivation, why we do this job? We want to improve the mobility, urban mobility from people, impaired people, especially visually and mobility people. So we have the situation in our city, especially in Brazil, the poor sidewalks, and these people just want to go, but we have this situation actually here. Okay. And our idea is use crowdsourcing to improve the situation. So we want to use the power of the crowds to get ideas, collect intelligence to make an app, to mapping the occurrences in the city. Okay. About our research and knowledge areas. So we will talk about social inclusion, information communication technologies, the ISTs, collective intelligence, and collaborative and accessible maps. Okay. So in the social inclusion, we get here some things about the disability. Good morning. The disability is not a barrier to studies in ICT field. So it's quite a positive. Disability can be a motivator to incentivize other people to participate and get an idea to one help the other. And if you have incentive from the family, you can improve this collective intelligence. Okay. And there is no culture or educational barriers to citizens. So we need to make a difference and include people in our society. Okay. About collective intelligence, what is this? So collective intelligence is something that happens collectively, and we believe that diversity can be the difference that just one people doing something. Okay? And during the last century, very scientists already studied this, try to understand this phenomenon, and believe that working group can be better than you work individually. Okay? And the collective intelligence was increased by, especially after the Web 2.0. About the collaborative and accessible maps. So what is this? It's the generation and use the maps collectively. It's a map generated with the collaboration and can solve the ease of the problem, the urban mobility. And nowadays there is very few navigation systems that are targeted to pedestrians. So our approach is to change this situation. So about the steps of my research. So the step one we have done is the stage of the art. We did a systematic literature review about the accessible maps. The step two is in progress, is a literature review about motivation and scientific methods in mobile crowd sensing. We want to understand what motivates the user to contribute with a mobile application to get information. The step three is to do, is a development of a mobile app. We intend to make an MVP, and minimal product vehicle to test this idea. And the step four is evaluating the app and analyze the results. Okay. So the step one, as the professor said, we present in MCS Impossible, is a systematic literature review about the state of the art of the accessible maps. Okay. Our methodology, we made a systematic literature review, searching by some four electronic libraries, AES, IEEE, ACM, and periodical copies, and we find for the term accessible maps. We found the 592 papers, and after applying the methodological procedures, we get 43 papers that included in the corpus of this research. Okay. So our results is on the 43 papers. Results. We found 18 publications that is especially to maps from people with wheelchair users and support with walking stick, adults with mothers with kids in a stroller, and other 22 papers and maps for visually impaired and blind people. Okay, so it's a division in two results that we found. About collective intelligence as approach, we found only 12 papers using crowdsourcing. Only 3 of these focusing visual part. Another approach that we found that get information gathering. Sensors installed in the wheelchair, smartphone, and accelerometer, and open data. And the papers with focus on people with mobility limitation, we identified some features that already exist in the stagnant or of occurrences or obstacle by users, obstacle quality rating, discussion of user privacy issues, open data as an alternative data source of information. Some researchers already consider user and road limitations that the size of the wheelchair and there is some features that voice commands to activate or playback instructions, data captured by automatic sensors, and some papers already talk about incentives to contribution or participation of users, especially using ranking and gamification. Okay? The papers that we found, especially to visually impaired people, this paper is greatly concerned about the device, the equipment, to make the roads understood by the people. Okay, so they are working in making some device that blind people understand and can use this device. So they are talking about design of technical maps, metrics devices, some techniques of mapping words, text to speech, and maps and symbols, recording and playback of instructions, integration of various devices, so really computer, tablets, smartphones, test of accessibility on the web, and participatory design. So when you talk about maps for physical environment, we already have routine, have and when we talk about maps for enlarged people, it's still on device. Okay? Some identified gaps that we found in so in the practice in Brazil there is very few results. I didn't found no one application is used in Brazil actually. Collective intelligence is already somewhat exploited, but the user motivation for collaboration is very little exploited, only by few studies. So we think that we can exploit more use more, explore more collaboration and motivation for the users. None of social networks is used as data source of additional collective intelligence. So Twitter is not using no one of the papers. Another identified gap. So we didn't see no one solution available for the both physical and impaired users. So we believe that despite the great difference of the two deficiencies, we can use the collective intelligence generated by the both publics. Okay, and then explore other incentive maps for getting new users, such as social incentives or love for the cause, because our project is a social project. So we want to use this approach to gathering more users. Okay. So I think I speak very fast. My English is not good, but if you have any questions or comments to do.
I have one first, not a question actually, just a comment on things that happened there at the presentation of this paper at HAMSIS, is that while we were presenting the first slides where you show those streets with the sidewalks that are really impossible for someone who has a disability, there was someone knocking at the door that could not get into the room. And then people were getting annoyed, why are they knocking, why don't they get in? And then suddenly someone went there and opened the door, and it was someone, an American professor in a wheelchair, you know, trying to come in and see what research you were doing. So you have to see that although we are still in a very preliminary stage, you are already calling the attention of people to your work. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have
Please.
one. In one of your slides, you mentioned that one approach is using sensors in wheelchair. What for?
This we found in one study that
Sensor,
yes, the research started to getting that about the elevation, the situation in the sidewalk. So he could identify that. So if you look around our university, you see that floor in the sidewalk is not good. So the water is to capture the quality of the sidewalk. Okay.
Okay, then the wheelchair can automatically
Yes.
react.
Yes.
Well, and not only that, but that wheelchair can send a message that will feed the accessible map with information, even with the slope. For example, the wheelchair is going slower than it usually goes, and then the system could realize, okay, so this is a slope, it's going up, or it's going, I don't know. There are several possibilities
And
there.
then another wheelchair can receive this data and already prepare
Not directly, but that could feed an accessible map that if someone else that is in a wheelchair wants to decide on the best way to go from one place to the other, they will say, don't take this road because this is really slopey, or this is really a hill, right, or whatever.
This is a very good case for linked data. And smart cities and IoT. Okay, thank you.
See, all those topics are really hot topics at the moment. Everyone is talking about smart cities and everything. So you have a good. Anything else? No?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go.
Someone wants to use my computer?
Yes, please, leave your computer there. We'll take good care of it. All right, so the second paper that we have to be presented, or the second project we have to present today, is one by Mateus Gonçalves and CISNe2017. They're doing some interesting research on fake information that is placed in hotel for hotels. You know, like we always think when we want to travel, we go there and look for those recommendations. But it seems that they're not always real recommendations from people that intended to help us. There are other vested interests there that need to be considered. Are you going to use your computer? So maybe we just, so you just settle up your things there. Let's leave his computer there as well, because we may go back to it afterwards. Just have to hear him, right?
Right?
Yep, perfect.
Hello, y'all. I'm Matheus, and my partner Thais can be there today. We are going to talk about detection of online fake hotels reviews. A brief introduction to you, why we do this research. Everyone, when you make a buy on the internet, you see all the comments and you make your choice of seeing that's reviews. And nowadays, your travel, we make our travel plan about these comments, and we research the best hotel to be and the best airline to get there. And the positive opinions can generate a significant financial gains with these comments. Sorry about my. To get there, we make a systematic literature review, and we found two kinds of opinion spam. Advertised spam is false negative opinions that promote a product or a service, and defamation spam, false negative opinions to harm the product or service. And the main challenge is to define fraud in reviews. We can not directly view a review that is fake. We have to see many factors that we found to know what review is fake and what is real true. In terms of characteristics used, the definition of fraud are linguistic and behavior. I'm going to show some factors that may be you maybe you help to find a false review. We found some linguistic characteristics that may indicate false advertising. So I'm going to read to you. Like positive reviews contain more words. False positive reviews contain more words. False positive reviews contain a greater number of references to a hotel brand. Strongly positive reviews after a negative review can be fake. Reviews that express only positive feelings may be fake too. Positive reviews that provide details that are not found in regular reviews tend to be fake. Positive reviews that make marketing style with promotional style tend to be fake too. And some behavioral characteristics that may indicate advertising spam. Scores that differ from average rating. Reviewers wrote about only one hotel and visited the opinion sharing site only once. Some linguistic characteristics may indicate defamation spam. Fake negative reviews mention their properties as a superior. Fake negative reviews are short because the spammers doesn't have much to write. Negative reviews are similar to the previous ones. Negative reviews only express negative feelings. Inconsistency between other reviews. And some behavioral characteristics that may indicate defamation spam. Scores that differ a lot from average rating. Spammers are not long-standing active members. Spammers post many negative reviews in short amount of time. True reviews are other contributions besides text, photos, videos, travel itineraries, something that fake cannot once doesn't have. One main research we found, the most reviews we found is like your boss tell you to do a fake review, or the big man just do fake reviews to promote his hotel, to promote his business, or to defamate the other business. Can make a review on another hotel to low down the score we have in the site. For example, in the TripAdvisor, if you enter now in your cell phone, you can make many reviews you wish in the many hotels you wish. All right, and the TripAdvisor don't make any restriction to people who are making this hotel. They don't have any restriction to you to make the many reviews as you can. All right. And final considerations we have the difficulty is complexity to distinguish whether a review is a false or true, because they are not on your face. You have to research about, and the people actually make is not a computer who makes these comments. All right. Detection of advertisement is more difficult and defamation spam, since fewer characteristics are found for the type, especially in variations behavioral characteristics. And our future work is to research a template to make it develop to find false ratings and other types of opinions on sharing sites, as well as WooCommerce or business evaluation. What is the final delivery we're gonna make in this research? For the graduation, we're gonna show you a model of how to know this is a fake review. We're gonna show you a BPMP or WML. We found it how is the best way to show. But with this model, we're gonna see sorry.
Say it in Portuguese.
Os passos.
The steps.
All the steps we're gonna to pass to know if the evaluation, the review is fake or really true. And this is all we will have to show you right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mateus. Questions for Mateus?
Are you detecting social robots?
Sorry.
Are you detecting social robots too?
Social robots.
Yeah, so we're trying to do that too.
Does the literature say that there are already social robots, including reviews for hotels?
Yes, but not all the articles say that. Many are focused on behavioral settings and the linguistic settings of the reviews. You know?
To do this evaluation, are you using some kind of sentiment analysis?
To this evaluation, until now, we just do a systematic literature review. And with that, we want to develop a model to BPMP or WML.
So you're not going. Your model is probably something that will happen prior to using, for example, sentiment analysis.
Yes.
To try and figure out in an automated way if a message is fake or not.
Our future work is to really develop a software that can make this. But in this initial process, to the graduation, TCC, we're gonna make just the model.
Go on.
The result of your evaluation is binary. Yes, it is false. No, it is not false. Or do you intend to have a probability? This is more about to be false, or it's more about being true?
It's a probability. We're gonna make an inference in the reviews.
Based in?
Based on the factors we found.
You will define this way to calculate the probability, or you have a system?
We're gonna found it.
Okay. Fuzzy.
They have the factors. They have the factors already, and they want to use those factors that show that it's very easy, or it's very likely that one of those reviews is fake. To give it, let's say, a number closer to 1 than closer to 0.
Yeah.
But there's no formula for now, at least.
Yeah, because this is like fuzzy.
Yes.
You can find this based in your facts. Based on this.
Yeah, fuzzy logic will probably be
Yes.
something that will appear in their model somehow.
You have to.
Okay, thank you very much, Mateus. Let's see, the next paper we have is going to be on virtual communities. I'll go there to present these guys. Yeah, it's you guys. What does motivate people? Come here. Jordan, Flavio, and Bruno. What motivates people to take part in communities on the web? And let's see if that it's already there. So let's see what the okay. So the actual name of the presentation is Antecedents and Motivation Factors of Participating in Virtual Communities. So go on, please.
Hello, you all. My name is Bruno. I'm here with Jordan and Flavio. We are doing a research about the motivating factors in virtual communities. It means what motivates users to participate actively in virtual communities. Now Jordan will give you some definitions about the research. Since we are having problem with the slides here. Okay. Okay, now Jordan is gonna talk about definitions about virtual communities and motivation. Here.
So what motivated us to run this research is that lots of research is about motivation or better factors and mechanisms for motivation for active participation on several different types of virtual communities. For example, wikis, social networks, and crowdsourcing platforms. And another motivation to do this research is because Malone and others cited that understanding why people participate on collective intelligence systems is one of the most important things to consider when building such systems, like a virtual community that is the object of our study. So the main objective of our research is to comprehend the factors and mechanisms that motivates users to actively participate on a virtual community. And to reach this main objective, we have three more specific objectives. First, to find the factors and mechanisms from the literature. Second, to implement these mechanisms on a new virtual community focused on creation and validation of business ideas. And finally, to verify the efficiency of the mechanisms that we implemented on this new virtual community. So before I start talking about our methodology, we have to show some definitions that we use on our entire presentation. First, what are virtual communities? By definition, virtual communities are social networks where people with similar interests, objectives, or practice interact to share knowledge, information, and engage into social interactions. And another important definition is what are the motivating factors and mechanisms and what is the difference between them. So the factors are what drives an active behavior on a virtual community. And the mechanisms are a physical realization, a physical implementation of a factor. So the mechanisms could be characteristics, functionalities, or managerial aspects of a virtual community. And because that, they tend to be more concrete instead abstract like the motivating factors are. And now Flavio will talk more about our methodology.
Okay, now I'll talk a little about our methodology used in this work. We did a systematic literature review based on guidelines from Barbara Kitchen. Barbara Kitchen proposed this method in 2004. There are three steps defined by her: plan, execute, and report. Plan is just the definition of the protocol and the process. Execute is the protocol execution, and report is to show the results of the protocol. After that, we defined a definitive protocol to use the work. We have first we have the objective, and then we have the question. As you can see, question and objective look like the same thing. They are almost the same thing. The objective is to find the factors and mechanisms that motivates users to actively participate in virtual communities. And the question is, what are these factors and mechanisms? They are just like the same thing. And we also defined a database to search for the stuff, articles, and to do our research. The database used was Portal without the caps, and the search terms were motivation and virtual communities. And we used articles published in the past 10 years. And we also have two criteria, the inclusion and the exclusion criteria. Inclusion criteria is when the title, the subject, or the summary in the article shows that probably that article addresses factors and mechanisms that motivates users to actively participate in a virtual community. And the exclusion criteria is when the summary addresses factors and mechanisms related to other types of platforms that are not virtual communities. VC means virtual communities. Okay, we have finally we have information synthesis. Have two steps. To first to aggregate motivating factors by similarity, and then synthesize information, and finally to associate motivating factors with the corresponding mechanisms, if any. Not all factors have a corresponding mechanisms, and not all mechanisms have a corresponding factor. Now, Bruno will talk a little about our project and our results.
Okay, so based on the RSL protocol, we found 2,101 articles, and then we selected by the criteria 66, and we extracted data from 37 because this that the others does not contain data of they don't talk about motivating factors in virtual communities. Um, of a total of 19 motivating factors, we grouped 5 most cited factors by similarity. They are reciprocity, learning, extrinsic motivation, external self-concept, and personal gains. And I'm going to talk and explain a little bit more about each of these factors here. So the first one is reciprocity. Is when users share information to return favors that he received from the others in an action of pay to the next. And I can give you an example of software development forums when advanced users help beginners software developers with questions about programming because they got helped in the past. So it's an example of reciprocity. What motivates the users to do that is pay to the next. The second factor is learning. Is when a user is interested in to keep informed about some topic, and I can talk about another example. A poker forum, for example, people share about strategies, hence they played in some tournaments because they want to get the other users' opinions about what they are doing to improve their knowledge and skills as a player. The third factor is the extrinsic motivation. When the user is motivated to participate actively from a virtual community because of some goal or objective explicit. For example, in the Yahoo Answers, it's a Q&A system. They have a score for you when your answer got more likes or got the best answer, you get a higher score, and it allows you to answer more, ask more questions and answer more questions. So they are goal-oriented users. And another factor is external self-concept. Is when people are motivated to take actions that bring positive feedback. And it's the most easy example to explain because that's why people use Instagram or Facebook. They basically share information because they want to get likes in their pictures, things like that. You know? And the last factor, these 5 most cited in the articles, is the personal gains. When users intentionally share information because they are trying to get something from that information. I will give a best example. It's when user answers a question, and in the end of the answer, he promotes his company or business or some service. So he is expecting to generate leads for his business with that kind of action. So it's a personal gain factor. The next step of our research, and it's currently being doing, is to implement a virtual community based. It's already online. A virtual community based on with the objective of validating and discussing business ideas. So it's 99makers.com.br. The website is in Portuguese, but basically here you can post some business idea, some product idea, or some current startup. You can set the current status of your project, and then we have an area that people can discuss about your projects, give you feedbacks, and here it's an environment that people can find investors or collaborators or maybe prospective clients. Okay, any questions?
Questions? Well, I have to say, one of the interesting things about this project is that they are already implementing it. This motivation, you probably noticed that it's an issue in many of the works that are being done here, because if we don't get people motivated to help us in these collective projects, they won't work, right? So this is their concern at this moment, and they're now trying to apply all the concepts related to motivation to this platform that they're building there. Please visit afterwards.
One of the final objectives of our project is to test the efficiency and the effectiveness of these factors. That's the reason why we built a virtual community.
Can you explicitly show us your factor implemented in your platform now?
Now,
I think
Or
you're
just
online.
an example.
Yes, you're online. You're online.
Let me try it.
As personal gains, one example is the Matthew work. I have to improve my business and then I will participate.
Personal gains.
Okay.
For example,
We haven't implemented all the motivating
Okay,
factors
you
of
know
it,
that.
but there is
Just
some
some of
them.
the
some of the factors.
Yeah.
For example, you are starting a new business, so you can go there, enter, post about your business, and then you have a page like this when you can. It's not a good project. Let me select another. You can just register your project here, and then you have a page like a mini pitch for your project, you know. And here you have a comments field that people can give you feedback. It's actually in a very early stage of this project. We are setting the factors we implement, but for personal gains, for example, you can use this area to generate backlinks to your website, or just to have a page that shows your company, your service, or business, or whatever to the others.
Okay,
For
don't
this-
forget the factors when you implement your platform.
Well, I mean, that's the reason why they studied all those factors for 6 months, right?
For the external self-concept, we have a voting system. It's kind of a like system here and on the project listing here. Okay, so we have to implement several other things, but we have 2 more months to do this, huh?
So now you have to discover how to make people to
Yes.
use this, to
To use
motivate
it.
Exactly.
people to use this.
We have to get the factors and implement mechanisms that in that platform.
Yeah, and hopefully those factors will be effective in their own research. Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I have a question. Are you integrated with some social network?
Yeah, Facebook. Actually, we are using co-op to make the login system. So people do not register; they just click to enter with Facebook, Google, or LinkedIn, and then we get data from their profile in these social networks and make the profile.
Is your
Yeah, go on.
Is your systematic literature review it's done? Can you share with me? Because I can use it.
Sure.
Because I am doing research only about motivation in mobile word searching, so I can use it.
And one thing that we can start doing, you know, like a seminar like this one is already something that you can refer to. So you can refer to their work, although it hasn't been published elsewhere. You can already say, well, it was a paper presented at Mostra de Pós-Graduação e Pesquisa. Is that how we call it? Yes, okay. And then we can already start citing each other's work, which is a good way of getting other people to know about what we're doing. Fernando also has a question, but before he asks it, one interesting thing is, notice when they said we are already implementing, then everyone said, wow, so this is good. We get all excited about the implementation part of it. So for those of you who have been collecting information and understanding a problem, notice implementing is the next very interesting step that we have to take. Okay, Fred.
Is this project just to the research or is to make money or a new business for you?
And now it's just for the research, but if we reach a good result, maybe we can see about legal questions of turning this in a profitable project. But the first intention is not to make a business out of this. It's just to the research, to test, to have an environment to test the motivating factors and how we have been studying for 6 months. Any questions?
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Okay, the next, we all talk about interactive web, right? We all think that the web is interactive, and it has been interactive at least since Web 2.0. That is one of the things that we study the most here in this group, right? But does the interactive web lead us to become more innovative? Are we able to use the this interactive web to create new business, even if they are small businesses, based on the knowledge and the innovation that comes from the crowds? This is what Rafaela Ardigó is studying, and she will be presenting to us. Okay, can you help her?
So guys, I'm not from applied computing area, I'm from business area. So my work will be a little bit different from yours because we don't develop nothing to apply after. But we are worried more in other kind of stuffs. For you that are worried about motivation, I could indicate a book that I'm studying in my dissertation from a guy from MIT called Peter Bloor. He in his book he talks about a lot about motivation and inclusive. Your findings are very similar from him, so I think it can be interesting for you. I'm a word as I should say in I have to talk a little about my history. I worked many years in my life in multinational companies, and I realized in the last years that people was working just for money, and they were not happy. Many of them were not happy working in that environment, and many of them were losing their health, physical and emotional. So I started to think, well, how can people work in a more meaningful way? And I think entrepreneur is something that really can address this concern of mine. So I start to research about how interactive web can create innovative business involving collective intelligence. This is my worry. Well, this what I will present for you now. It's a systematic literature review that actually will help me to justify my dissertation. Okay, so the research question of this systematic literature review was: what kinds of business are perceived in academia as able to take advantage benefits of collective intelligence in the context of interactive web? What kind of business we are studying in academia? And they have been applied in the markets already, or just they are just an academic concern. To that, I did a systematic review, as I already told you, with the previous research question. I used as database the portal periódicos CAPES. My keyword definition was were business, collective intelligence, and web. After I applied practice screening criteria, there was peer review, language, full access, and exclusion of non and full access. After methodological screening criteria, there was exclusion of non-scientific papers and the places. I began with 279 papers, and in the end, I analyzed 94 papers in this systematic literature review. My findings, well, as can be expected, 45% of studies of papers assigned were from applied computing, and 37% from business, and 18% of other areas. So business and applied computing are the two areas that are that seems to be worried about new business using collective intelligence in the interactive web, and actually this is a very it's not an unexpected result, because both are areas very applied, so it's okay. And what has been the big concern of this research? There's more appear in this research are social, web, management, business, knowledge, and learning. So in this sample, the majority of students are related to development of systems and tools with the purpose of knowledge management, of huge amounts of available of information available in interactive web. What this means? What it means is that there are real big concern and develop new systems. These are the big concern. This seems to be the big concern regarding new business in interactive web. Develop new softwares. Just develop new softwares. Okay. To support these first findings, the papers were classified according to proposed classification for innovation of Oslo manual. That's a manual developed by organization. Alexandre, can you help me?
Oslo,
OCD.
I will not remember.
Organization for Cooperation and Economic Development, right?
And Economic Development. I think that's in Portuguese, right? OCDE.
Okay, this is a manual. So in this manual, they classify innovation in four big areas: process innovation, organizational innovation, product innovation, and marketing innovation. Interestingly, 48% of the papers was regarding process innovation, and for this, 85% relate to softwares for managed services. 15% process to improvement of goods and industrial production, energy, and health. So the big concern is develop softwares for managed services in process. So there is no concern of develop softwares or systems to create new products, for example. It's just to manage services.
Well, it's Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development.
Okay. Following process innovation, that represents the majority of the papers, the next big concern is organizational innovation. corresponding to 29% of the papers. 56% of these papers are related with external relations, so most of them associated with inter-organizational collaboration. I don't know if you already heard about open innovation, but this is very interesting because in organizational innovation, almost all the papers I find are worried about to understand how can innovate with the collaboration of other organizations. So the idea of open innovation very
Present.
yes, very recent, and then it has been very studied. 30% related with business practice related to knowledge management inside firms. This is another area with a very huge concern of academia, and we can see that this can really be applied in organizations because nowadays we have flow of information, and people don't know how to manage all that information, especially business people. You that are from applied computing, maybe you can you know how to organize that better. And maybe with this organization, business can apply this knowledge or doing other kind of analysis that maybe you are not concerned to do because it's not of your area. 15% are related with the organization of the workplace. So there are not very. I think it's very interesting because in organizational innovation, there's not a really concern about studies regarding organization of the workplace. What indicates for me that academia is not very worried about the professionals who work in that organizations. So, what can explain what can help to explain one of the reasons people are getting sick in these organizations. And the next kind of innovation is the product innovation, corresponding just to 15%. I think this is very interesting because we live in a very physical world yet, despite all this hype of services and technology and information. And just 50% of innovation regarding collective intelligence in web interaction are related to product innovation. So it's like people don't need products anymore. And this is a very big lie. People need. So I think this is very, I see this with a little bit of concern. And, but also with a great opportunity of field of study. 850%, and look, just 15% are product innovation, and 85% of studies regarding product innovation are related to creation of software to data mining. So people are just worried to get information, but okay, what do you do with this information? So I think you're very, very interesting. Because it's very difficult to find people really worried with, okay, we are creating software to data mining, but okay, and so it's very interesting when I see words like yours. And just 15% are related to platforms which encourage the development of physical goods. Maybe you, with your platform, can help people to do that. So it's also very interesting, but just 15% of the papers are worried of that. So I see some papers, some work of you here, very interesting because your both studies are very few studied yet. And marketing innovation corresponds just to 10% of the papers that are analyzed. And what's very interesting because in commercially, marketing innovation regarding collective intelligence and the interactive web seems to be the new big hype in the practice. But in academia, this is very few studied. All the studies are regarding to new forms to promote goods and services. Just to promote. Of course, it's marketing. So, but there is no words about, for example, new kinds of embalagens.
Packings.
New kinds of packings, packers, or words to social environmental concerns, just to promote. It's just a worry about marketing. And also, it's interesting because marketing don't seems to be area considered very academic because so few studies regarding this. Okay. My final conclusion is kind of business rate collective intelligence in the phase of interactive web seems to be associated with artificial intelligence, basically, and Internet of Things. In all for innovation classification, don't mind if you are worried about process, organizational, product, or marketing innovation. You are worried. Almost all papers are concerned with artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. Predominance of studies related to software development, also for innovation classification. This is very interesting, but because even in the product innovation, the big concern is software development, just software development. And studies related to process innovation focus on software development to make decision making to profit organizations. So the worry is about making money in process innovation. You have to develop software to help managers take better decision making to get money. This is the worry. In organizational innovation, the focus are on software again for internal collaboration of teams of work. So you are worried to have money, gain money, taking better decision making, and find new ways of people collaborate better in the teams. And the product innovation focuses in development of software, again, to foster service with some interest in commerce. So it's very interesting because the focus of product innovation is not about physical product. Again, it's about software to foster services. And marketing innovation focuses on new strategies of software to product promotion. So I think this was, for me, this was a very interesting conclusion because I'm worried in my dissertation in understand because I believe people live in a material world, and yet many people don't have access or knowledge to develop software. How these people can get benefits of who can do it? So it's what I'm trying to study in my dissertation. And this was very interesting to me see all the scenario.
Thank you very much, Rafael. Any questions?
I have one question. So your area is business. How do you see the field in this study get some information about software? How do you think is really very, very important? So what software to solve problems? Because sometimes I listen to some develop a new software to solve a problem that I haven't had. So what do you in another area connect the software development to solve your problems?
I think both areas need to talk more because I see that many times you have very great ideas about softwares, and I think this is interesting. And in my previous experience in some companies, says that this is the real big problem. For example, in the implementation of a new system in a company, the areas don't the applied computing and business areas don't talk. So when a system is implemented in a company, many times is implemented just with the ideas and with the point of view of one area. And normally it's the area that can do can program. And the business always complain that, wow, this is worse now than it was before, because they actually is not attending their necessities. So before to develop, just for develop, you have to understand what are the needs of people. I think it is my group.
Rita?
I have some questions.
Questions in the plural.
Plural. Can you go back to the previous slide, please? Okay. So here you have several things to discuss, you know that. And you explored very well and very interesting points you gave us. But first question. When you were talking about the second point, organizational innovation, 29%, and then 30% related with business practices related to knowledge management. Then you gave us some examples about how to manage information.
What are you talking about? About this?
This one, yes.
Related with business practices, related to knowledge management inside firms.
Yeah.
Yes, I gave. Let me
So
remember.
my question is, okay, this is an assumption. So my question is, what if the papers are confusing, making confusion about these terms? Actually, they are talking about these papers are trying to talk about knowledge management, but using information management, because this is very common in this area. And when you try to organize the knowledge of information, making this accessible explicitly in information, you are not doing only knowledge management. Actually, you are doing information management.
And sometimes you're doing data management.
Data management, yes.
It's true.
Yeah, so did you notice that, or is your concept?
I think for what I read, I think that states are more concerned about to organize than to really create knowledge management. They are more worried about information organization than with knowledge information.
Knowledge creation.
Organization, which I think it's a very mistake. It's a very big mistake, because in the end, all that information and all that data, even when they are organizing, they just will work if they became knowledge.
Exactly. But I was worried about your concept, because when you explained the knowledge management, you gave examples about information management, and then
yes, because organization innovation, 30% related with business practice related to knowledge management. Yes, maybe I have the wrong term here.
Yeah.
I think they are more worried about information management.
Yeah. Because
and maybe they call it knowledge management because knowledge management is the holy grail.
Yes, yes. You're right.
Yeah, but it's important to you.
Yes.
To see this difference. Okay. Give let the mistakes for the computation area, because data, information, knowledge, everything in database. So yeah. And the second one is your reflections about product information, because you're saying and you are concerned about that the main product is software. Yes? But I would say that the product, you cannot consider only the software. For example, I don't know if it's Uber in English. Uber. It's Uber in English.
Uber.
It's horrible. Uber is a software, but the product, it's not the software. It's the idea. It's the new way of transportation. I cannot consider only the software the product, you know? Facebook, it's not the software, the product, but the new way of relation. You see this?
Yes,
I
I
wrote
see. But
The user is the product.
user is the product.
To
But
generate information for.
But the
Don't be
software
bad.
is a product because but software is also a product.
It
because
is also,
software
yes, it is. But
make
it's
a lot
not
of
the
data
main
mining and
product.
use people as sensors.
Yeah, but can you consider, it's just a reflection, okay? It's a point of view. Can you consider only the software as a product in this case? Because I believe that this 85% of people trying to create software to data mining, it's not the product, the intention.
Yes.
It's to do something to resolve to solve some problem.
So the product is going to be the second step, right? For example, you build a product, a software to collect data from wheelchairs, and then you use that information in an accessible map, and the product is actually the accessible map assessed by
Yes,
you.
that's my point. And maybe this 55, it's the low, it's almost the second lowest value, but one of the most important.
Which one?
Because this product innovation, because besides they are very low, they have more impact.
The 15.
The 15, yes, the 15.
They have more impact because people, almost all people don't know how to use. People don't know how to use the technology we already have, even less to develop new technologies. And people are very, they are not so, they do not accept so easily new platforms, new apps. There are many things in the hype, and this is a little tiring.
Yeah, let's just finish the discussion. For example, the platform of these guys, the platform is not the product in my point of view. Is the benefit of getting a new way of validating an idea, and maybe this is not a product innovation anymore, it's an organization innovation anymore, you know? The use of your product innovation can make actually a process innovation, an organization innovation.
Yes, I don't put it here, but in my original papers, some of papers were classified in more than one specific innovation.
I believe that. And go back one more slide, my last one.
When we put these women to talk, there's no schedule any longer. The schedule is gone. But anyway, let's go on. No, we're fine. We're fine. We're fine.
No, it's very. I'm really interested in how did you classify these areas? Other business and applied computing. Yes. Which area did you put inside applied computing?
Actually, I take the papers and I search the area of the authors.
Computer science is there?
Yes.
System information is there?
Yes. So I see the area. Here in applied computing, you know what areas are here?
Yes, yes.
System computing, engineering computing, just both.
Because then,
Computing.
yeah, computing. Because applied is
information knowledge. There are some courses
information
of
science.
yeah.
Okay. Because then you highlight the main. Okay, there are two main areas, but the most terms cited are social, web, management, business, knowledge, and learning. But they are all about software.
They are about software.
So
it's interesting.
In the end, the area are getting in touch.
Yeah, I think they are
interacting more.
This paper show that academia should be very interested in develop softwares using social networks to learn.
You see,
develop new
the main thing is not the software. Software is
a way to
achieve other products, other innovations. Okay.
The software may be the product for whoever is selling, but it's not the product for whoever is buying. It's weird. But for example, yeah, I think when you were mentioning the platform on putting the innovators to discuss with other people that can bring ideas. Well, okay, their product is, if they ever commercialize that, is their platform. The products that their customers will get is the crowdsourcing, right? So it's interesting. Maybe we have a situation here where what is being sold and what is being bought is different, and there is a conversion in the middle of the way that is not very well defined.
Yes. Okay. So I'm sorry for the several questions.
No, thank you very much. In fact, I would say that you put us out of the schedule, though you actually put us back to the schedule. We were being fast and very. The computer science side of this group here is very efficient. You know,
yes.
If you gave me 10 minutes, it's going to be 8 minutes. Just make sure that I have 2 minutes for the questions. When we get to business, you know, and mainly when we get to women.
Concerns. Philosophical concerns.
But anyway, no, we're right on time. It's good. Thank you very much, Rafaela. The next paper in Rodrigo Lau is Fernando.
It's just two.
We've been talking a lot about the internet, of course. We've been talking a lot about crowdsourcing. We've heard crowdsourcing many times here. We've talked a lot about motivation. I hope when someone comes here to talk about motivation for crowdsourcing, you don't feel that it's more of the same, but it's actually that motivation is a very important issue, a very important challenge for any of the work that we're developing here. And crowdsourcing is right at the center of the mainstream of that. Okay, so Fernando, please be very welcome.
So hello, my name is Fernando. I am a master degree on business student, and one of my works is on motivations to participate in online crowdsourcing. It's goes in the same way of your work, but I could perceive some differences, and I think we will talk a lot because I thought fantastic your work. So maybe we can talk after. The reason of this work is because we were trying to develop a study about why surfers surf. Uh, they participate of an online platform to discover new spots to surf. And why do they participate on these platforms? And we stay on the Malone and Lobasher theory about love, glory, and money, but we perceived that there was some others motivations, and we developed a systematic review to see what were these others motivation factors. So the objective of this work is the identification of motivational factors involved in the participation of users in crowdsourcing platforms. I think an important thing to to talk here is this is a part of my dissertation in business. So there are other stuffs in this dissertation that are types of platforms, and we are developing a research about the motivation on participation in Uber, right? We performed a systematic literature review using Google Scholar platform. The words used on the systematic review were crowdsourcing and motivation. An important thing here is we choose for Google Scholar because talking with Professor Juventil, we 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 think we can refine for ourselves the research. So we have some filters here to get to the 20 final articles that compose this systematic review. The first filter, they found more than 20,000 articles. Then the second filter, we uh, we get there with two page results in a row with no relevance to the study. So there were 20 articles or 20 results that doesn't matter to us. The third filter was just journals and reviews articles because we found a lot in Google Scholar. You have a lot of proceedings, papers, and dissertations and theses. Um, in another work, we about another systematic review about taxonomy and crowdsourcing, we have the number of the papers and on the pages that they are from journals and reviews, and how much they are dissertation, thesis, or books. It's some contribution. And final, we have 20 articles that make up the systematic review, and these 20 articles, they have to have some kind of classification, structure with classification. All the articles, they have classification, some kind of classification. So the results, we found 10 articles that use the self-determination theory that you must find either. And, and other 10 articles that doesn't use, that didn't use the self-determination theory. The self-determination theory uses the extrinsic and intrinsic motivations, and it's, I studied a little, and it comes from the motivational theory that is not used as the same way that it was in the business, right? Because the motivation usually it's not external. The motivation is something inside the people. So what we have was the same factors in the self-determination theory articles and the articles that didn't use the self-determination theory was the same results, right? And we get to 9 motivation factors here: financial, recognizer glory, professional opportunity or career, knowledge and abilities development, socialization, pleasure or fun, self-interest, and share information or outreach. Here we have some of these names of the motivation factors that were used in the articles, and we group in these motivation factors. Something interesting to speak here is that there is an author called Brabham that in 3 different jobs he used 2 financial factor, the name money, financial, and financial motivation. So I think here we are trying to get to some kind of standard or standardization in these motivation factors, because we found a lot of different constructed to the same motivation factors. So I guess we are studying a very new field or area, and we will try to get to this standardization or to these common names, all right? And the conclusion here is that the standardization of labels to motivational factor is still information. There are two different approaches about motivational factors: the self-determination theory and the non-self-determination theory. The first uses the self-determination theory as an umbrella to classify the motivation factors, and the second doesn't. What we conclude was that the use or not of the self-determination theory to this research doesn't change the motivational factors. So what did we found? The one article that uses the self-determination theory had love, glory, and altruism. And another article that didn't use the self-determination theory had the same motivations. So for one more time, for our study, this is not relevant. We are trying to, we develop a questionnaire to apply based on these motivational factors to get to factors of motivational factors. So let's see if it will work. But I guess it's something like that. My presentation is short because I have to present it on some point and have to be very
Yeah,
short.
one thing that I didn't say at the beginning of Fernando's presentation is that on Monday he will be presenting this paper in Portuguese at Simpoi, which is the best or the best known operations management symposium here in Brazil. It will happen at Fundação Getúlio Vargas in São Paulo.
10 minutes, so it's very, very short. So
yeah, it is short, but it's, and besides, the most important thing is that we see that there's a lot of interconnection between all our work. Okay, questions? Yeah, Vlad.
What were the criteria used by you to include or exclude the articles?
I didn't put here. I will do it because it's important. First, when I had the articles, I read the title, the summary, and the keywords. And yeah, the same. I guess it's the same in a way. But when I didn't get to know if that article is or is not, if I can or not use it on my research, I read the whole article. And in this other job that we developed about taxonomy and crowdsourcing, I put there this information about how many articles I had to read all of them to get to know about it, because some of the articles doesn't have the keywords. So that's a little difficult, a little hard to know. Just using title, summary, and keywords, I found some difficult.
We had the same.
Right, yeah, maybe we can develop something about it because I guess it's common, it's difficult. I don't know if there is something right about it, but it's important. Okay.
I have a question. So I want your paper to use in my job. I am doing a study in crowdsourcing. So some authors said that if you use money, you can get a lot of people, but it's not. It's about the quality of information. In our study, did you identify something like that? For example, money is. I can get a lot of people because I'm big, but if I know the cause of the job, I can do better my job, including more quality information.
Yeah, so I guess maybe in a moment in this year yet, I developed a study about types of crowdsourcing platforms, right, and the characteristics of these types of platforms. And there are types like microtasks or challenges and others. And we are developing research about the motivation to the users of Uber to evaluate the drivers, right? And this is a evaluation test, right? And we, the method to engage more people was offer money to the response to our research. We will
Um, have a lottery.
yeah, we will have a lottery to the people who will engage. But you could choose for get the money or turn the money to an institution. And relating these two jobs, I, I think this is empiric, right? That when people are engaged with love, they maybe they are more involved. And when they are engaged by a challenge, either. So, because when it's a micro task like Amazon Mechanical Turk, and you receive 4 cents, you stay all of your life there to get to 4 cents. And I always said about I knew a guy, young boy, that once he told me that he was participating on a NASA study. So he was a chemistry student here. Wow, you are working with NASA. And he says, yeah, and my next project is about malaria. I think it's malaria in English. Yeah, it's about cured malaria. I said, wow, you are a genius. And I asked him, how do you do that? And he copied me in a website, a platform called Blank. I don't know if you read. Yeah, you just authorize some universities to use the capacity of your computer in their research. But this was his motivation. He could tell to everyone that he was participating on a NASA project, but he knew what was the project, all about it. But his collaboration was just hardware, as structural. So I don't know. Here we didn't get to this result, but maybe we can get to something more concrete on this Uber research, and I think we can research about that. We will research about that for the next 10 years.
For example, to donate money to some institutions, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No? So I'd like to thank Fernando for his presentation. You have a, no, you just say that it's okay. And our last presentation is going to also challenge a little bit. We will challenge a little bit our, if Mauricio starts doing his computer use, I guess we just need that. Mauricio is going to discuss his project that involves computer graphics into improving human environments. So you'll see again that he's trying to bring some of the spirit of collective intelligence into it.
What's the code? This is?
You can either take that if, does that fit that?
I think this is another kind of this. Maybe I need
So you need the white one.
Can you use my computer?
Or you can, can't you use the white?
Notice you can use Mac for show and your computer for your writes.
But to show what?
He needs two.
Oh, he needs two computers?
No,
He just needs
two screens. But I
He
don't
needs
know.
two screens because he has some rights.
I see.
I think he's.
I didn't quite understand what you mean there.
This is a Mac.
This is a Mac, but oh, you mean that won't fit there? You need an adapter for this.
Mas dá pra. Esse aqui não se vê.
No, it's really can't. So,
Não.
você não quer puxar só a tua apresentação, tem que puxar pelo computador dele.
Mas vai abrir.
Vai.
Você tem que usar, eu tenho que usar.
Você tem?
Okay, just a second, a little technical issues here, but we'll solve it in a minute.
Mas a versão do PowerPoint vai abrir, então a gente
The name of the movie is The Great Man in Black. With the blue sky. Will that work? Because otherwise I think I have one of those things. Will it work?
Você deixa aqui em cima, você deixa aqui em cima. Os lados aqui são aqui em cima.
Okay, sorry for the inconvenience. My name is Mauricio. I'm architect and urban planner, and I'm student in computing applied in PPGCA here in UTFPR. Well, my results are about computer graphics applied in urban environment, more specifically in CAD, BIM, SIM, VR, and AR. That means computer-aided design, building information modeling, city information modeling, virtual reality, and augmented reality. Well, first of all, it's important to highlight the meaning of computer graphics used in this work. When I refer to computer graphics, that means it's an architect's point of view. I'm referring just about the softwares used to draw projects in architecture, engineering, and other disciplines, okay? Well, to make this presentation more dynamic, I'll make some inroads into the main topics, not to just reading on the screen. So if you wanna, I can disponibilize the files after this and make some questions at the end.
Well, I'll speak briefly about the importance of cities in the 21st century and its relationship with development, as well as the importance of a city having a virtual model that represents it. Carlos Leite, that is a urban planner too, he wrote a book that says the 19th century was the century of the empires, the 25th century was the century of the nations, and the 21st century is the century of the cities. If you think about the New York, Tokyo, São Paulo, Barcelona, or even other cities that we know or that we heard to talk about, we can imagine why he says this. Well, the importance of cities in the 21st century. Some rates of some urbanization rates made by United Nations or Inter-American Development Bank shows that these rates, these world rates in 1950 was about 29%, while in LAC here is Latin American and Caribbean population, was 41 in 1950s. After 60 years in 2010, these urbanization rates increased for 51% in the world, while in Latin America and Caribbean it was 80%. Some projections has an expectative that in 2050 these urbanization rates of road it will be 69%, while in the Latin America it will be 89%. That's scary if we think we don't have a practices that worry about this thing in our cities, because we live in cities, we work in cities, we study in cities. Well, to build a database for the city that allows visualization and interaction with their spaces in a virtual way. Most of these important cities like Berlin or Singapore already have their database and showed by a virtual model of their cities. The general objective in this work is to carry out a compilation of recently produced bibliographic content, because all the research that I find shows only a little part of these resources or these tools related to computer graphics. Remembering that computer graphics for an architect is just the softwares that he uses in their routines, okay? Well, the work has a compilation of small specific objectives that I will use in this presentation to develop the mainly 10, okay? So I will take each one of these and make some commentaries, all right? The importance of the city, we already saw in the abstract. Architecture and urban planning in the information age. According to Castells, connectivity is the key word for metropolitan regions in the information age in order to ensure competitiveness in global networks. And he gives some examples like Bilbao, with their Guggenheim Museum, made by Frank Gehry. He's the architect, the author. Other examples like Barcelona and the Santiago Calatrava's architecture. Calatrava, for who doesn't know, is the architect that made the project of Rio's Art Museum, MARC, in Rio de Janeiro. And for castles, these examples are the new cathedrals of the information age, where the pilgrims created to search for the meaning of their wandering. Just pause to situate, he criticizes it, right? The fact that the architecture is used only for publicity, and if it doesn't worry about the urban context, the urban planning, where he's added, just added, like a commercial thing. Another specific objectives is about the cities and technological future. Well, after this contextualization, I will highlight main tools, softwares, and platforms of computer graphics, and more used in the AECO market, architectural, engineering, construction, and operation of the cities, okay? That means it can be used maybe for an architect or engineering or constructor or an operator, like a manager or some guy in the government. Well, CAD, computer-aided design, was the free software accepted and integrated with the architects' work routines. More as a matter of productivity, initially then as an alternative of drawings. In the case of Brazil, it still had a late acceptance and integration in relation to the international market for various reasons, such as cultural, economic, or political. After a long period of mostly use of CAD in their routines, architects now go through a new paradigm, shifting their work routines. The design development life cycle of a project, which was done in an isolation and in a linear process among its designers, now becomes cyclical, participatory, and simultaneous. The virtual model of the project that until then was offered by the CAD tools is no longer enough as information for its execution. The final product for visualization, budgeting, construction, and operation now is unique and contains all project informations, very different from that model that was produced in CAD tools, okay? And for this, it has to be produced in a participatory and simultaneously way. Comparing in a very rudimentary way, this will be the production process of drawings in CAD process and versus BIM process. This illustration was taken in an enterprise here in Curitiba that uses that works in BIM platform. Okay. While in the CAD process, the process was very straight and linear. In the process, it's made in a very cyclical, made in a participatory way. I'm the architect. I disponibilize my model in a 3D model, in a cloud, for example, while the structure projects access this and make their insurances and our comments, and I'm seeing at the same time, it doesn't necessarily that I expect 2 weeks. He prepares their project and send me back to analyze. It made it at in the same time, in real time. Another specific objective is the newest computing resources applied to the city. Still in virtual, still in computer graphics, like virtual reality and augmented reality. I say newest computing resources when I refer to the architecture market. Okay, it's new for this application, this kind of application. Some examples of virtual reality, we have the cave in USP University. Cave, that means Cave Automatic Virtual Environment in Universidade de São Paulo, here in Brazil. And Panoscope, I think it's in New York City. Augmented reality, with some examples applied in architecture markets, like some apps that allows you to see the model of your house, just focusing the plan printed in a paper, for example, and you have your virtual model. Or just to manipulate with some glasses that allows the architect or the engineer to manipulate this model and verify some interactions or some kind of troubles or some clashes. At the end, I left the concept of scene just to contextualize about the use of the BIM concepts used on a building project to apply on the environment, the urban environment. Okay. Since the information modeling, it's an extension of the BIM concept, just to apply in the urban environment. The clear benefits provided by BIM platform open this way, but it's still an incipient discussion. Even in Brazil or abroad, we don't have any significant example of this application in a whole city. Just some incursions about this theme, and this is a very interesting way to make some research about. These models allows the democratization of the most important and necessary information to the inhabitants, planners, builders, operators of the cities. Information on traffic control, for example, mobility, accessibility, air quality, population mass, temperature, winds, permeability. Some conclusions of this small mapping. Point but mainly to this outstanding. And one of them is this last one, crowdsourcing. Just after Fernando speak about his project, this way shown here enabled me to elaborate an essay. An essay, that's right.
Essay.
An essay. Ensayo.
Oh, an essay.
An essay for the AGCI discipline in this course. Studying some application of participatory practices in the process of planning and implementing crowdsourcing of computer graphics, just to try to solve the problem that is make a virtual city that demands a strong work about the data, about the resources, and about the motivation too. That's the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions to Mauricio? So yeah, go on.
Do you want to make a model about the...
Yeah, maybe starting in this building, this university building, or maybe in the campus at the building, just to test maybe how it can work, to extend for this neighborhood or maybe the city.
And do you want to do with all this tools?
Yeah, the idea is each one apply their expertise. For example, if I do my works with Bing, I can make a building in Bing. Or no, I just can manipulate CAD tools. I can make a 3D model in CAD.
How do you plan to motivate people to cooperate in this crowdsourcing effort of, rebuilding this building here, the building of the university, into a 3D prototype or whatever, where everyone puts a little effort instead of you putting all the efforts?
The idea to apply the participatory practices is just to try to make this in a real way, to put all the guys or interesting guys and girls together in a room to make a kind of dynamic, and a specific dynamic to plan what motivates each one, what can be did, what can be do, how it can be do, or what it needs in research, in the database, for example, and to young, very multidisciplinary people like designers or programmers, architects, engineers, and other students. I don't know if this is a good strategy, but it's a team to explore.
And maybe you should go and talk to people at the architecture department, and but think of ways you could motivate other people to help you with little tasks. One thing that we have all already understood is that if you want the crowds to help you with a lot of effort, you will not get their support. But if you get them to help with little things, the things that they think are important, the things that they care about, someone cares about a different part of the thing, and then at the end you may get your project to be successful. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I know another student here in university that is the last time that I saw already has done the implementation, the building in the university and across here. So if you talk to him, you can join your idea to participatory and engineer, and maybe his platform to connect some things because
that's great.
So I pass the contact to.
Please. please. I'd like to.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mauricio. Well, we are a little, I don't think that I forgot anyone. I think everyone who had ideas to present has presented here. I think we're about 10 minutes behind schedule. The idea would be that I did a little closing, not only to this mostra de pesquisa e pós-graduação, but also to the course of information systems and organization that some of you were taking. I think that for the presentation that we have here, you were able to understand how much the research that each one of you is doing can contribute to someone else's research. One of the things that we can try and do now is include all of these PowerPoints. Please send them to me when you can, and we'll try to include them in a website, probably inside DAINF's website, but anyway, I can tell you where that's going to be, so that we keep connected. One of the other thing that I wanted to say is that when we plan something like this, it's something that we plan very quickly so that we could have it inside this larger event that the university is promoting this week. But for me, I'll be 50 years old in 2 weeks, and half a century doesn't seem much. I mean, things go really fast, but at the same time, you start seeing that you need things to motivate you to keep doing what you do. And your efforts in doing this, this effort of preparing this in English, I know it's a challenge for many of you. Your effort of being here in the morning, I know that many of you, this is not your regular time. So this is one of the things I have to tell you from my personal perspective. This is one of the things that keep me feeling that we are doing something right. I don't know. It's the small share of each one of us in this in this crowdsourcing contribution to a better world. So thank you very much for today's session, and hopefully soon we'll have people concluding their undergraduate work, other people concluding their master's work, and soon in our schools here, both hopefully in the graduate school of business and in the applied computing graduate school, we'll also have some doctoral students working on these things. Okay, so thank you very much. And we haven't given everyone an applause, but this is the material lá para buscar.